Of course, the big story today that we're all waiting in anticipation for is the appearance and the court hearing at the High Court in Pretoria, where Oscar Pistorius is expected to appear. Well, let's get more on this top story and straight away across to Chriselda Lewis. Chriselda, a very good morning to you. This is, I suppose, a big moment where Oscar Pistorius goes into the courtroom and we get a glimpse of him after quite some time. Talk us through what's expected today.
Well, Leanne, there's quite wide media speculation at this point that Oscar Pistorius' lawyers will inform this court that they plan to appeal his murder conviction, and certainly if that is the case, that will be done at the Constitutional Court. Now, if we do hear that inside court this morning, that means that Oscar Pistorius' lawyers have about 14 to 15 days to file those papers at the Constitutional Court. But we did learn here this morning from the state that they are simply unaware of such a move that the defence is expected to take this morning, when it's speculated they will inform this court about this appeal they plan to take to the Constitutional Court. Certainly as well, what will raise a number of eyebrows as well is that many of questions will be raised about why the defence would want to do this at this point. You would know, of course, in the very beginning, it was Judge Mlambo that had granted the media access to the court initially for this trial to be covered. You recall, of course, last week when Justice Leach was handing down the judgment, he had indicated that it was unprecedented that there was such a case that was covered in this manner, both locally and internationally. And the only aspect then, I guess, that the defence will have to take to the Constitutional Court is that Oscar Pistorius' rights perhaps had been infringed upon by the wide media coverage, that in fact that the trial was live, and that Oscar Pistorius, as we heard initially from the trial judge, Judge Thokozile Masipa, that Oscar Pistorius was a poor witness. So it remains to be seen at this point whether Oscar Pistorius' lawyers will inform this court of their intention to appeal the murder conviction at the Constitutional Court.
You know, we talk about an appeal, and I imagine we'll hear more about that as the day progresses. But, you know, there was talk of Oscar Pistorius being completely bankrupt and not having the money to, fund any more legal procedures through this journey of his. Has there been any talk of that? I imagine going to the Constitutional Court is an expensive exercise for him.
Well, certainly, Anne, on the basis that we've previously heard from the defence as well, that Oscar Pistorius simply cannot afford another trial, or simply cannot afford to prolong this protracted legal battle, certainly that we've seen over the years. But certainly it remains to be seen. That's certainly one of the pertinent questions that need to be answered about if Oscar Pistorius' lawyers decide to take this matter to the Constitutional Court, of course, on the basis that perhaps his rights were infringed upon, on the basis that Oscar Pistorius was not able to perform on the stand because of the media's glare. One of the main questions that will also need to be answered is that this is somebody that we've seen who's been followed, who's been under the media spotlight since a very early age. Oscar Pistorius has been in the glare of the media. So for the defence to bring that as a basis, we understand from the law experts that we've spoken to, would be quite an expensive exercise again, and certainly would raise questions about why the defence did not raise it in the very beginning, when Judge Mlambo had raised the issue that the media was allowed to cover this trial in the manner in which we did. There was live proceedings that had taken place. So certainly what remains to be seen is certainly what happens inside this court. But what we do know is that the state is not expected to oppose bail at this stage, of course taking into account that Oscar Pistorius, when he was initially granted bail in the very beginning, he had complied with all the bail conditions and certainly sat through the trial. But of course, this court would need to take into account the seriousness of the conviction, the murder conviction which I'm speaking of. But certainly that could be balanced if he is granted bail, certainly balanced perhaps by a ruling that Oscar Pistorius would need to report to a police station every now and again, and perhaps give very stiff bail conditions under the circumstances, of course, if that is granted. But one of the pertinent questions certainly to be raised, if they do say they will take it to the Constitutional Court to appeal that murder conviction, how taxing, how costly that will be for Oscar Pistorius.
Chriselda Lewis there outside the High Court in Pretoria. We'll be crossing to her once again as the day gets underway, and the first public appearance of Oscar Pistorius in quite some time. Remember, serving just under a year in prison, and this will be one of the first times that he is seen in public.